I've been scratching my head regarding an oil leak coming from this corner of the cylinder base on this pre-unit Tiger 110 engine in a Triton, and I rebuilt this engine 3 or 4 years ago, and of course I didn't get to try and see it running or anything. It was taken away and obviously put into this bike, and it's only recently come back to me. But one of the comments the owner said was that it was leaking a bit of oil from there, so I've tried tightening the cylinder base nuts. I've even made washers to fit between the flange and the nuts in case I could sort of get the nuts to sort of spin that little bit further, because there was a washer there rather than dig into the metal of the cylinder base flange. I even took this stud up. I made two thin, took this stud out as far as it would go. I made two slim nuts, locked them together, unwound the stud, put some thread sealing compound on it, and then screwed it back in, and it did go in a little bit further than it had been in previously, so I thought that might have given me some progress. But running the engine again, it still leaked, and I was really starting to beat myself up, because I know when I rebuilt this engine I fitted a new base gasket, and I got pictures that show that, and I started mentally preparing myself to take the top end apart again, and I was about to order a base gasket, and then I thought I might have something around, and sure enough, among all my bits and pieces, I've got a new base gasket there. And when I looked at it, unfortunately my photos of that gasket don't show the gasket this corner, at this corner, but I noticed there's this little hole in this one, and that is located in front of that stud, and there's the flange of the cylinder base actually sort of overhangs that area of the crankcase mouth a little. So I started wondering if these cylinder barrels are compatible with the crankcases, and I've got a set of 650 unit crankcases here, and you can see clearly that this base gasket matches the shape perfectly, and there's your hole. And I've actually had a look on another set of crankcases I've got, and there's actually a little dowel sticking up there as well. Well, on these pre-unit crankcases you haven't got that. This area here doesn't exist, and I think what's happening is the oil hole on the underside of the cylinder barrels is overhanging, and that's where our leak is coming from. And I'd almost put money on that. The camera won't pick it up, but I've been looking in there, and you actually sort of almost see something, and it's the location of that in the cylinder barrels that I'm seeing. I'm seeing the underside of it, and it must be just on the edge of the base gasket, and it's letting oil out. So it would still be a top end strip job, but and it would mean, I don't know, maybe blanking off the oil hole in there or whatever might be doable. I don't know yet. I'm no authority on these. Probably something I could do. It's going to be a top end strip to fix it, but at least it's not my fault, because I was starting to wonder how I could have rebuilt this with a new base gasket so carefully and got a leak. And I've tightened the nuts down a couple of times thinking that might take it up, and all along cylinder barrels haven't been compatible with the crankcases. So that explains it, but as to what we do about fixing it at this stage is anybody's guess. But I think I'm going to speak to the owner, and we probably will end up having the top end off and seeing what can be done, no doubt. It's nice to have things like this lying around to be able to look at and consider, and sometimes come up with an idea. And I think what I'm thinking is probably on the right lines.